بقول لك فاكر 25 يناير في سنة 2011 ايه اللي تم؟
It's very bad for my government. I have food, I have anything. Me and my children, I will die today.
Will not be silenced whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're an atheist. You will get back your goddamn rights, and you will have more rights. One way or the other. We will never be silenced.
إن هذه التظاهرات وما شهدناه قبلها من وقفات احتجاجية خلال الأعوام القليلة الماضية ما كان لها أن تتم لولا المساحات العريضة لحرية الرأي والتعبير والصحافة وغيرها من الحريات التي أتاحتها خطوات الإصلاح لأبناء الشعب.
بس الغلق ده
Okay, Assalamu alaikum once again. Picture is more powerful than 1,000 words, right? So, very, very compelling images here. You see a lot of agony, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of conviction. You see aqidah in action. People who have solid convictions and they're expressing this on the streets of Egypt. They're really making history across the Arab world at this point, whether it's in Libya, Egypt, and first where it all started in Tunis, in Tunisia. So history is truly in the making. This is history unfolding. We're very fortunate to be living these times. This is very, very extraordinary. It's something that people for many years imagined that it would not be possible. And all of a sudden it's coming together, and it's coming together with a great deal of perfection. So subhanallah. As many of you might not be very aware, there is background to this. There's a lot of history before this history that we're witnessing right now unfolding again. The background is very, very important because it will give you a whole new level of appreciation for what you're watching, for the stories that you hear from back home, whether it's your cousins in Cairo or Alexandria, whether it's your relatives in Tunis or in Tripoli or in Ghazi or any of these, or in Sana'a or any of these places. You have to understand the background in order to be proud of these people. So many of us have been watching history unfolding, but without really understanding the background. We have witnessed these extraordinary events happen on TV, and we're told by stories by relatives and so on. Why is it very, very important? Because it will give you a whole new dimension. Where people were and where they at this point. How far they have come. How much they have traveled. You know, what kind of a course they have ran. And what kind of a burden they were able to sustain and carry. With strength and zeal. And really embodiment of true men and women of Islam. And in order to do this, next slide, we have to understand that these, what seems that sudden changes are not truly sudden, but they've been gradual and sort of like overdue, if you will. Yes, they do seem sudden to many of you because you don't know the history of the region, you don't know what Egypt went through, for example, and what Libya has been going through for so many years, and all these countries, they share a great deal of overlap and similarities. And this is what we'd like to discover, or sort of like, you know, come to learn tonight. Very quickly, I'll go over the stats, you know, quick statistics, and that's slightly the boring part of it, but we want to definitely examine the causes and the means. And that is what we are all about in terms of this presentation. So very quickly, I think we do have a map as well. I wanted to show you a map. Yeah, sure, go ahead. So the map of the Arab world looks like this. This is where most of these things are taking place. Egypt is definitely at the heart of this. It all started right here in Tunisia, and now Libya is connecting these two countries. Other things are happening all at the same time, as Rami mentioned in the beginning. Sana'a, Yemen, as well as other places right here. Algeria, especially in Algiers, the capital, people tried to go out a few times. They were subdued and they were back and forth, and now they started to get permits. They went out and they had some good showing, but a lot of people were restricted to certain areas in the capital, and they were separated, so nothing very successful, but many attempts. Morocco went out in great numbers very recently, but it did not create a whole lot of momentum. That is still being built. Jordan, Amman, Jordan, there is a great deal of turmoil. People go out every single Friday and they are demanding change. They want to see a new government. They want to see an elected parliament. They want to see all these different forms and ways of representation. And they are literally almost stripping the government of any legitimacy because they don't think that government is representative of the people. Many other things are happening. Obviously, we have to mention Bahrain. There is a great deal of movement happening in Bahrain. Again, other countries were mentioned as well. Iraq actually came out, especially in Baghdad, great numbers and so on and so forth. What connects this big piece of real estate here is the background. And this is something that you need to understand. Obviously the background entails, the culture. So there's a great deal of culture. If we superficially define culture as language perhaps, as well as religion and shared and common customs, what people come to know as, nice and acceptable, and other things people have come to know as, not very acceptable, not within the norms and the practices of society, whatever, loosely, defining what culture is, this whole piece of real estate is bonded by this idea of culture. What's the most significant part that really affects them all together is the fact that they all fall in the very heart of the Muslim world. They share a whole system of value and ethics, and they share common convictions in terms of aqidah and so on and so forth. That is really beneath the surface, and that is really a great shaker and mover in this whole equation. But what is as important, not necessarily as important, and very important as well, the language. Why the language is important? Communication is good, but what sort of communication? Language. Why the language is very important? Very important.
Mentality of the people is all the same? Mentality is all the same with the same language?
Right, so they tend to form same type of mindset and mentality, correct. But what should that lead them to do? If we all speak the same language, namely Arabic, what do we end up doing? There's a great deal of networking and communicating, right? But in sitting at home, what are we all watching? The news. And the news is in the same language. And it's very easy for me to relate to these people over here, in spite of the fact that they live all the way over here, because they speak the same language. What is happening to them is well communicated to me. I understand it very well. Language is a very powerful medium of, conveying different, convictions and messages and so on. The language is very powerful, namely, these forms and means of, conveying the news, Al Jazeera and so many of these others, news networks and so on, it becomes very easy, very accessible to me, because it's in my language. I don't struggle whatsoever to relate to what's going on. So the language is important. We'll go back to